You are now listening to The Jason Damico Show.
Greetings, folks. Welcome back to The Jason Damico Show. So happy to be back. It has definitely been a little while. I think our last guest was probably Robert Davi. For those of you who haven't had a chance to check that out, please do. You will definitely enjoy that. He's one of the staple actors and producers and directors in the industry. If you were familiar with the Goonies, you've seen him singing opera and giving the kids a hard time, and he's been such a staple in the industry. So definitely check that out for those of our friends that are in the industry. You guys would really enjoy that. But today I am so stoked and excited to have with us a very, very good friend of mine. And our guest today is an award-winning actor based and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, with 5+ years in the business. He's already accrued credits within feature films such as Conder's Nest, The Raker House, and Enzo. He's also made TV and web series appearances on Homicide Hunter and Atlanta's Ugly. Please welcome to the show, Alex Javo. It's great to have you, my friend. It's great to have you.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, man. It's an honor to come on here, man. The great Jason Damico Show. When I first, booked Condor's Nest, I was researching Phil Blattenberger, the director, and I came across your podcast with him and watched that because I didn't know, when I was first auditioning what he looked like. It was all self-tape. So
yeah,
great to be.
It's great to have you, and sporting the stash, which we were kind of talking about a little previously before we clicked the record button. But it sounds like you've got some interesting projects coming up. What's the one that you were just talking about before we aired? Sounds pretty exciting. Another Spaniard.
So I booked this movie based on this book called Mi Esposa. The director, writer of the movies is the same as the book, Jesse Glenn. I got cast in his movie as Eduardo. I'm playing a Mexican. Interesting role. I'm not gonna put. I don't want to spoil what because it'll kind of give away the ending, but. I'll say like this. He starts off as a taxi driver. Let's just say that. And so getting the role and reading the script, it's great script, great book. He felt in the dialogue very very free. He's used to tourists and stuff coming in and out of Mexico and stuff like that. So he has some fun with the Americans and that kind of thing. So he's a good time. So I wanted it to be this look to be more freeing. I had a beard as well last week and let the hair grow out a little bit, be all kind of crazy and stuff. But and you'll see in the clothing and stuff. I want him to be kind of all about having fun type of thing. So.
Absolutely. Well, we look forward to seeing this once it's where are you guys at in production? Is it kind of like post-production?
They're shooting it right now.
Oh, they're shooting. Okay, shooting great.
Yeah, they're filming it. I was filming on it last week. The week before this week. Yeah, I was shooting on For My Days. And so they'll be coming soon.
Awesome. Well, let's dive into your beginning stages real quick. I know that you are an Atlanta native, which is phenomenal, since a lot of the industry has migrated to Georgia in one way or another over the years. So it's kind of it must be. I would think, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's kind of nice to still be in the home base and almost have the industry come to you instead of having to go to LA or go to New York. I've done that before in the past, and it's fun, but it's just a different experience.
Yeah, I mean, that was a lot of the reason why I didn't pursue acting early on. Was it wasn't here, it wasn't as popular, And because my dream was always to be like a child star. I grew up watching Drake and Josh and Full House and The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and I wanted that kind of life, right? But it wasn't the biggest thing here. I was moving around a lot. I was raised by a single mother, and so it was kind of tough. So I really kind of put that dream on the back burner, until I kind of grew up and hit my hit my early 20s, and that's when I made the decision to pursue it. And by that time, it's already been all the Marvel movies shot here, and Tyler Perry's always been here, and all these Clint Eastwood movies, all these great giants are now been here. So yeah, it's been kind of great timing for me to start at this time.
Who are some of your major influences? You just listed a few, kind of like from the childhood perspective. A couple of child influences that really got you, interested in film, but also, let's say maybe early 20s when you made that decision. Who were some of those that really were like the catalyst for you?
Well, I would say, from as far as back as I can remember, I've always loved movies, cartoons, TV. I mean, I was never great in school. It was always, I couldn't wait to get home to watch TV, that kind of thing. And I could wait till the weekend because then I could watch Batman all day, or in the morning. And so, and it was just, Batman, Mickey Mouse. I mean, you name it. I would even stay up, every night, watch cartoons. I had a ritual. I mean, I'd watch Full House at it was Full House at 8, 2 episodes. Then I'd watch Fresh Prince at 9 for 2 episodes, and then I would go to sleep, and have my mom, she was in the room next to me, and I would listen, and if I heard her start snoring, I would either turn my TV on in my room, have the volume on one, notch, and listen to and watch like Adult Swim cartoons and stuff, like or Cartoon Network or whatever. And if she woke up and said turn it off, go to bed, then I would like wait again until she went to sleep and heard her snoring, and then I would go downstairs and then turn that TV on. So I was just a mess and just totally just lived for entertainment, but as a fan before acting, some of the great, performances, like Christian Bale and the Batman trilogy, really just because I had loved Batman before, and so when I watched him play Batman, I was like, well, that dream's dead, because no one could ever do it as perfect. I thought he just was like absolutely perfect as Bruce Wayne and Batman. And so I was like, man, I mean, what's left? Batman Beyond? I don't know. And so that was a huge influence. I really, at a young age, just really connected well. I loved Leo DiCaprio and Catch Me If You Can. Seeing him play a con man and conning these people, and it was acting to me at its peak. Each day he's acting like he's a pilot. He's acting like a doctor, and then as a lawyer, and like just doing it so convincingly that he got away with it. So even though it was a movie, I just thought he was just that was perfect to me. And so seeing them, obviously, Christian Bale, Leo DiCaprio, Tom Hanks, seeing him morph from Big, playing a child trapped in an adult's body, to seeing Forrest Gump. I mean, that range. I always appreciated, character actors, guys that really morph themselves into these roles. I mean, seeing Christian Bale with the weight loss, weight gain, seeing the stuff Robert De Niro's done, with Raging Bull, with Scarface, Al Pacino, seeing him from The Godfather to Scarface.
Yep.
And so yeah, I always those guys seeing every one of Heath Ledger's movies. He's different every single one. I mean, Lords of Dogtown, he goes from, surfer, skater, on the beach to and Brokeback Mountain, playing this homosexual cowboy. It's just brilliant. And then the Joker, I was just like, man, this guy can just do anything, And so those guys, and now greats like Joaquin Phoenix, his brother River Phoenix is amazing. Way back, Marlon Brando, all of his stuff, James Dean, all these, just everybody. I've watched all these guys. They've all influenced me. They're all just phenomenal artists, and that's always what I've always wanted to be as an actor, is that kind of a guy where, especially with this look and everything, where you could be, Hispanic or European or, American and Native American, those kind of things. I always love culture and exploring language, exploring all these things. And 'cause that's what we do. I mean, we're, exploring, and studying humanity, and so that's what I really love about it.
One could say that you would be the child poster definition of ethnically ambiguous on casting networks or Actors Access,
Right.
which plays phenomenally into your favor. But you're able to, you put in the work. It's not like you just show up and it's, you put in the work. It's evident. In Connor's Nest, for example, to me, it's still personally my favorite scene in the movie. And I'm always going to say that. I'm always going to sing your praises in that scene, but it's just great, man. Love that scene. And it's iconic. It's going to be iconic 30, 40 years from now. People are going to look back on it.
Yeah, I get friends of mine, and in the industry and stuff, always asking me about if I want a banana, or if there's any banana, any bananas lying around, or just something banana related, Yeah, that was an awesome project, led by, great guys, Phil,
yep,
Dan, Jacob, as they're just fantastic, fantastic, professional, talented, hardworking. I mean, everything you'd want in a director. Producer Dan and our lead Jacob was just phenomenal. I really loved playing that part, as you could tell.
It's clear.
And it was just, when I got the script, I auditioned like normal. I got it through my agent at the time, in 2020. My big resolution that year was to get to book a movie, a big movie. And so I booked it, but we couldn't shoot it until 2021 because of COVID happening. But yeah, the auditioning process was great. I had to do one self-tape, sent it in. Phil sent me back notes on, what to do differently. Sent in that tape. And then I met with them in person, did it like 10 times or whatever it was. And with Jacob, and then it was study time. Then it was all about, playing in Argentina. And, they are, as we know, through, the world of soccer, football, and the influence Leo Messi and Diego Maradona have influenced on sports, and their love for and passion for sports, and so there was a lot of passion there. So I was like, I want to do this right, because I don't want to offend any, Argentinians that may come across this movie. And so I took it upon myself to hire 2 dialect coaches, which was pretty cool. That how I met them was, both were 2 friends that I knew in the industry that weren't Argentinian. You know, one was Mexican and one was Brazil. And they were like, "Oh, my friend so and so is from Buenos Aires, Argentina." And I was like, "That's where my character's from. Let's let's chat. That's where this takes place." And so yeah, they were awesome. They really helped me with the accent, with Castellano, their way of speaking Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
It was just great. It was just I really had no knowledge about Argentinos and that beautiful country, and so it was really cool to study that guy, and then his backstory was just kind of really cool to me. He went to school in Switzerland, and he, well traveled, because Phil had labeled him as a frat guy, kind of thing. But frat guy in the 50s in Argentina, I was like, okay, this is really interesting. And so I really, I knew from the scene, as you see, reading on the page, I was like, man, this is not something that I could ever half-ass. I mean, not saying that I try to half-ass anyway, but I mean, this scene, what he's talking about is so bold. I mean, even though he's tipsy, drunk, whatever. I mean, the fact that he's, saying all these things was there.
Yeah, and to really be able to keep following up and pressing Jake's character, with like there's just something really interesting about that scene where it's like why does he keep asking these questions? He's just pressing him a little bit more than the average person, and you have to that character has to have a certain amount of intelligence to know that what he's to be on to the BS. So, and you played it great where it was there is that intelligence going on subconsciously, but you are getting the frat guy obnoxious, at the bar. So it's and that's also a credit to Phil's writing as well. Just all those layers. I love seeing that scene because you always pick up something new every single time. Like for me personally, one of the great things about it is obviously the dialect, but what you did, and anybody who's getting into film definitely see this scene because there's just choice words that you use to emphasize that the choices were great. I feel like I don't know if it was an intentional choice or choices, like type of lead up of choices, but what you did was essentially it just gave the character a life that the way I'm trying to explain it is that the way that it reads is so real that it's if you had anybody else read for it, I just don't. It's kind of like watching Office auditions. You see everybody reading for the part, and then you just see like, oh, that's it. Like if that's just it. Clearly, I think that's how it would be for you. I'm trying to say like three different things at once, but the choices are amazing. That you made with the character, but I don't know if they were, and I'll follow up with this question, what were those choices intentional or was it more of just in the moment? Because the way that it just comes off of the dialect and the lingo is really almost what makes that scene. Even though the acting is strong, it's almost like just the dialect alone and the way that it's said makes it so believable.
Oh, well, thank you so much for your kind words. For that scene, that was the audition. Obviously, that was my one scene in the film. But like for a year and a half, I had that script and I made notes. I had other projects going on because they kept postponing because of COVID. But I think what really helped was coming back at it with fresh eyes each time because I would study it. Get ready for it. And then Phil would say, hey, we got to postpone it or what have you. And so I was like, okay. So I think coming back with it with fresh eyes helped. I think, when Phil was telling me that Jorge Garcia, Hurley from Lost, was going to be Ippolito, the guy that I call fat shit in Spanish, I really tried to, I wanted to not leave any stone unturned, for my one scene in the, in the presence of an A-list actor like Jorge. I wanted to really uh, do everything that or try everything that I've ever done, ever learned in acting classes and my research online and reading books. All of it. I wanted to try everything. I tried everything possible in my rehearsing time in that scene. Animal techniques, Ivana Chubik technique, method technique, Stanislavski, you name it. I tried it for that scene, just because I wanted to, do a great job. And so I wanted to do great. I knew it was an awesome opportunity. It was my, first time working with Phil and them. So I wanted to make a great impression. So the pressure was on, but it was great. It was a great opportunity. So it was like, I was willing to do whatever it took. And I wanted this accent to be as authentic as possible. So having, my great, Flo and Lon, if you see this, thank you. Having them constantly correct me on, how to speak it and all. It was just wonderful. And so yeah, I think the choices was, I have one teacher, Robert Pralgo, here in Atlanta. I have two acting teachers that I go back to often, Robert Pralgo and Cecilia Specht. But Rob always says, he who spends the most time with the script wins. Winning's not meaning getting the part necessarily. Winning is, you make the best choices because you spent the most time with the script. Because all you can control is your performance. I mean, your look is your look, right? So it's like, you only have the craft and your technique. So, work it out, work it out like the gym, with that script and see your choices, and make them. So, yeah.
That's a great point. That's a phenomenal point. And that'll lead us into kind of your creative process. And you have a background in production. You're constantly creating, which I think is fantastic. And you have to be in this day and age, as we were talking about a little bit previously before we were on the air, which we're going to talk about now, inevitably. Your creative process, how does it work for you? And we could start with kind of prep, even maybe click it back a notch to just the audition process, because there's a lot of creativity that goes into it. And I've found personally for me that the most success that I've had in the auditioning process and booking was when you just take the reins and kind of self-produce. And sometimes that's going to not necessarily be what's on the page, but it's just from spending time with the page, letting it, fleshing it out, giving yourself permission to try different things. So with all that kind of combined into this next question, your creative process, what is it? What does it look like? How do you get there? What are some of the key elements for you?
Well, for me, like if I get a role, first off, you obviously read and see what, you read the whole thing because you want to know what other people think of your character, to give it, what's your reputation, reading the subtext, what is it, what am I trying to say, in these, through what am I really trying to say through the dialogue. And I love exploring the name is important to me. What's his name? What's his full name? What's his middle name? What are the meanings of these names? Because that could have a significance on like the mother, and that's what gets me to the parents. Like maybe the mother, named him, David from the Bible, or named him this, or, the last name, what's his ethnicity, being ambiguous. Where is he from? Where's his family from? I like I love to eat, so I love exploring foods, for Javier, because there's this great Argentinian place called Sabores del Plata in Norcross, Georgia. I ate there plenty of times. It was awesome. I also ate at French places, German places, and Italian places because he went to school around there, Switzerland. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to taste all these things. That's another thing with method acting, real method acting, Stanislavski techniques, Strasberg, Adler, and Meisner is, it's your senses, it's your, what do you taste? What do you see? What do you feel? What do you smell? All those things, bringing that to girl. So I wanted to touch base on my taste with the food, and so, so that's a big part of it. Obviously doing my backstory stuff, I always have to do a backstory. I have this list, it's about 100 and it's like 200 questions, but I'll fill out most of the time, like 100 of them, it gets pretty detailed about everything about the character. I mean, your IQ, your parents, where'd you grow up? How old are you? How many siblings do you have? I mean,
did you come up with this list, or was it something that you got from one of your instructors?
So through my research, I found this YouTube channel. I believe it was called The Unstoppable Actor. And yeah, that guy who has that channel has a list. And so I save that list and I use that to
wow. Very cool.
Or I try to use it on every role. I mean, some roles, sometimes it's like, I'll get some roles where like I'll play the cop in a film and they say, come in. They're like, just say, come in. They're like, say freeze or you're under arrest.
Eat the donut and leave. I don't know if you need to answer 100 questions for, how to say freeze.
I mean, you'd be surprised. I mean, there was this one time I was on this pilot called Trace, and I was playing Ricky, a drug dealing Mexican who get tackled by 2 agents. And I did the thing and I showed my notes to the director because I was like, hey, I've got all these notes, this backstory, this guy's kids, this guy's, and I only came in and I was the guy they arrested that day and I was wrapped for the whole production. And so I was kind of like, I think you should have for those kind of parts, some things, but unless it's like a supporting character or leading character that's got a lot of screen time. I mean, Javier is only one scene, but it was a scene like that, and with Jorge and with Phil, I was like, I gotta do it. And so yeah, if I use it for most of my work, I mean, I'm trying to focus on more supporting parts and leading parts now. So, now I'm using it, every time, but yeah, that's kind of a rough breakdown of what I do to begin my process when I get a role. Auditioning's different. Auditioning is, it's basically, all of that stuff within a week or within a few days, I mean, when you have the entire screenplay, that's awesome because then you can have so much more to go off of. But if a lot of times when you only get one scene, you don't really know like for an example, Ivana Chubbuck's main question is, what does your character want in the whole film? What does your character want the scenes to get their main, what they want? So their objective. And so when you're only getting one scene, you don't really know what they want for the whole story, right? But that's the challenge. So it's like, so what do you want in this scene, and what's in your way of getting it? What obstacles do you have to get to, like for Javier, I wanted to get him to like me, I wanted him to be my friend. I wanted him to, and what was in my way was slurred speech, being a little tipsy, being a little drunk, my accent, he's American. Does he really, or he's from Switzerland. Does he know what I'm saying? Because I had these issues in Switzerland with my accent a little bit. I had to overcome that, and so all these things were kind of in my way of getting him to like me, be my friend, get drunk with me. Let's talk about the women, let's talk about the, I had this woman with bananas, so those are all the little, the details you have to really have to perform a script or perform a scene, I think well, but yeah.
Well, and speaking of that, by the way, that's great. Really, really great. Kind of expansion on that, unpacking on that. And I think everybody's got a little bit of I know this for a fact. Everybody's got a little bit of a different formula, but it all kind of goes back to the same thing, which is, what does the character want? What's getting in the way? And there's different techniques to get there. And there's different, it's funny how you can do something 5, 6, 7, 8 times, and it just so happens to be the 8th time or the 3rd time or whatever. And it's just, you're there. Somehow it just comes together. And in other times, I don't know, it's there the first take. But coming into now, you're doing supporting lead roles, and by the way, congrats on Malcolm. The recent success with correct me if I'm wrong, Tubi distribution or streaming, Amazon streaming. So that's great.
It's on Amazon Prime Video, and it'll be coming on to Tubi soon.
Awesome.
So
awesome.
Right now it's on Prime Video. Just type Malcolm, and we started out being below Denzel Washington's Malcolm X movie, and now we're above it. I don't know if that depends on kind of clicks or anything. I have no idea, but wow. I just noticed that difference refreshing the page. So yeah, Malcolm is out now. Shout out to Chadwick Whitmire and Johnny Ray Jr., my directors. They did an excellent job making that movie with me, and now we're celebration time, promotion time, and trying to getting the word out there about it.
And Enzo, which is one of my personal favorites of yours, if not, I mean, besides Javier, I love Enzo, and I think we were talking about this earlier in the year, and you were I think you were going to look towards doing a full feature of it at some point.
Yes. I wrote the full length feature script.
Awesome.
And I found a director that I want to do Enzo with. But I don't know if he wants announcement. I don't know, what. Yeah, so it's really early on.
Sure.
But I've got the script made, and I've got the guy that I want to work with on making it. So progress.
That's exciting. Well, the short is great. And it's not, to me, it's almost a little, it's a little bit more than a short. What is it, like 35, 40 minutes, somewhere around there?
It's 30 minutes exactly. Yeah.
30. Okay. It just plays really well. And typically, I'm not really a short film guy, me personally. It's like, if you're going to do it, it's like do a web series, do whatever, or just do like a TV pilot if you're going to do something. But for whatever reason, it's just so strong, and there's all those odes to kind of like the the Rocky type of deal, the some of the old gangster movies, the Italian mob movies that we know and love. What were some of your main inspirations on those? I know I kind of just gave like one or two away, but maybe just kind of explore a little bit on the creative process on that and
Well,
the origin.
Well, Enzo came about. I started writing purely it's for my acting. It's because the first year there of acting, I was getting all Hispanic drug dealer, drug lord, drywall worker stuff, and and that's great. Hey, I mean, I'm being paid as an actor. That's awesome. And those things were getting on television, Homicide Hunter, and that was all awesome. Big moments for me. But for one, I'm not Hispanic. I'm Greek, and I wanted to explore my range, and if these filmmakers weren't going to give it to me as a leading guy, then I'm going to have to do a little more digging and write my own screenplays, and try to get them produced or what have you, just like how Rocky did, Sly, and Vin Diesel did for Multifacial, and Chaz Palminteri, Bronx Tale. Those guys influenced me to become a writer, because they took matters into their own hands. They went out and got those things out there, and now they're infamous. They are put those guys on the map. And so but those guys influenced me to even start writing in the first place. So back in 2019, I was acting and I was landing those kind of roles, but I wanted to showcase my range, right, like my idols. And so I wrote a couple short films, different genres. I wrote a western, a gangster film, a vampire film, and I shot them. I bought a camera, shot them. They weren't done well. I'm not a film major or anything. I didn't know technical stuff, but at the same time, they were out there. And some of the scenes were okay, watchable. And so through those, people saw me as and I won an award at, the Global Shorts Award. That's the poster of the first Enzo I did, and for the short film, and so that one got some of that attention. It was like, okay, well, there's something here, and so that one is so Enzo. I went back and I wrote like a sequel to that. Then I rewrote all of it. And then so it was writing it for, all of 2020 and most of 2021. And this is, a couple years later. Right. And so I went and, with some of the filmmakers and stuff and other actors that were sure going to make it. I came across a couple guys that wanted to make a film, and my guy Aiden Moa and Jay Moretti, we all just clicked about Enzo. We wanted it to be made. Jay was a huge fan of Quentin Tarantino and Martin Scorsese, like I am, and so we saw eye to eye on the look and of the filmmaking style. The movie and inspirations that got me from pen to paper for Enzo's got to be The Irish. I mean, it came out in 2019, and my favorite actors in it, Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, and that relationship, that friendship, they were just best friends, Frank Sheeran and Jimmy Hoffa. And to see that betrayal and to see how it played out, and him doing it himself, him having to kill him himself, really did something to me. And seeing the aftermath of it, of what De Niro put himself through afterwards. I mean, that phone call with Jimmy Hoffa's wife lying to her, like, it really was magnificent. And that's what inspired me to write this. I wanted to write that scene. But I was also doing a lot of research and obviously inspirations like Al Pacino, Marlon Brando, and was watching The Godfathers and The Godfather 2 that De Niro's also in. I saw when Michael Corleone made the decision to take out his own brother, Fredo. I was like, damn, And so I was like, I wanted to put the two together, and I wanted to see that play out. And so it was really based on that one scene, or those scenes and that buildup. I wanted to see that betrayal. And another thing, was seeing On the Waterfront with Marlon Brando.
That's right. We did talk about this. Yeah,
I could have been a Contender speech in that, crying out like, you should have helped me. You could have. I could have been all of this, and I wanted to see that night what he's talking about. That night. That was. I wanted to see that, so I wrote it, and so I wrote that, and I just mishmashed those three key inspirations, and then you've got the Goodfellas stuff in there, the Rocky stuff in there, Raging Bull, the Bronx Tale, all these just wonderful, awesome, gangster movies that, you and I love so much. I wanted to make my own and make my own opportunity at the end of the day. And, and got a great cast together. It was so funny to be on set. One of the best experiences, I would say, Condor's Nest, Malcolm, Enzo. I mean, they're all I've just been so fortunate, blessed, but being on set of Enzo, and it was so funny. It was like the makeup artist. I didn't even know that she's Italian. And then Daniel, playing my brother, he's part Italian. Mitch is part Greek. I was like, how is everybody? Even one of my great friends, Dustin Vitale, he's the ref in the boxing match. He's like, I'm Italian. And I was like, I just somehow smelled the garlic bread and marinara sauce when casting this thing. I don't know. And now I want you to be in so the feature. So it's like, I don't know.
Oh man,
Greeks and Italian. Why can't we, break bread together, right?
It's so close, man. Like, what the hell's the difference? I know that on my mom's side, my dad's basically 100% Sicilian, as far as I know. My mom's side is Northern Italy, and there's some Greek and maybe a little French, German somewhere, but it's all basically the same to me. The Roman Empire, a lot of the gene pool is still kind of in the same area over there. So, I
gotta tell you something that my mom told me when we first met. You at the Condor's Nest, first premiere. She when she saw you, she was like, he reminds me of your dad. Dad's Greek, and you guys have similar skin, complexion, and the hair and the eyes. I was like, yeah. I see it. Yeah.
Well, you and I could definitely play brothers in a certain light for sure. Or at least like cousins or something, because because of the hair and the skin. I think you've got me on darker eyes. I have the lighter, kind of like green eyes, and in our family, it's interesting. My dad is also light-eyed colored, where his sisters are all dark. They have that like dark Sicilian look, and all my cousins have that dark Sicilian look, except for and this is just on my dad's side. My cousin Dana, she's got like light eyes because she's more of Polak descent on my.
Right.
Yeah. So, but it's interesting because you see that, and I've seen that with a lot of Greeks too, where it'll be either green or brown, but it's never really anything else. It's always green or brown, or maybe like a dark hazel or something like that.
Right. Well, I've also got that. My father was 100% Greek. My mother is 50% Korean, so that makes me 25% Korean.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I see somewhere Eastern. I see it when I look at you, and I was like, where do they come from? Now I know.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
so put those together, and I guess you get a Mexican. I don't know, but
Which I don't understand why, because I've met your mom at least once or twice at this point. I don't know why I didn't put that together. I don't know. Maybe it was just like
yeah,
dark because we're at the theater and everything, but it was
right.
yeah.
Well, she looks like she would have an accent until she opens her mouth, and then she, even my sister, they've said looks like she'd be something, but yeah, I mean, when you're born somewhere, accents, what are they? And so being in Georgia, being in Atlanta, we've got a huge population of Latinos here. My whole life, they've always thought I was Hispanic. I used to hate it, but now I take it as a compliment. My girlfriend's Mexican. And so yeah, I mean, I embrace it now. I mean, it's gotten me paid jobs on television and film. So it's like, awesome. But I, but it's also the same point. My heroes, the Italian and the gangster genre. It's like I want to be a part of that world on screen, and so I'm looking forward to doing Enzo the feature one day, and definitely want you in it. Sure.
I'd love it. It would be a lot of fun for sure. And yeah, it comes down to there's always some project going on, right? Whether it's your own or you're working with another friends or other friends in a circle or an acquaintance circle. And you really have touched on a key point, which is if they're not giving it to you, you got to take the bull by the horns and just and steer it yourself. You've got to find a way. And that's one thing that I've always admired about you is kind of that similar entrepreneurial, sweat equity spirit. It's like one of the reasons why I started this podcast was because I saw a void in the North Carolina region of, because I love Joe Rogan and I love Howard Stern. A lot of people do. But it's like, well, why can't somebody just start it? Somebody should be covering all these stories, and you can have edutainment out of it. So it was kind of the same thing. Like I was kind of tired of like not being interviewed as an artist. So I was like, well, let me just start a podcast and just kind of like, put some good love out there, good vibrations, good karma and whatnot. I mean, and it wasn't really to try and like get something back. It was just like somebody needs to do something about this. So I think it's great, man. And there's definitely ways to always create these kind of like alliances of collaboration, create these alliances of collaboration where everybody can benefit multifold. And that's the way I think it really should be, is everybody should be benefiting from whatever the creative endeavor is. It's like you creating Enzo in your mind and being influenced by all those other mediums and art forms and great scripts beforehand and pieces of art beforehand. Like you put a twist on something, it's still original. You were inspired. All these other people got involved. It won awards. They won awards because they were associated with what you did and because of your step out in faith with it and accomplishing it. So I'm always super excited about like there's just something magical about that process, that collaborative process of people getting together, and who are very talented, and everybody's just doing its own thing, and it's like it's a family. It really is. It's just great. There's nothing like this business. There really isn't. It's got its ups and downs for sure, but there's a lot of magic with it.
Totally. I couldn't agree more. And it definitely takes a team effort. I mean, I can do a lot of different hats, but I feel like for me, it's always been about my love for acting. I've never wanted to I mean, but a part of acting is almost like writing. I mean, looking at backstory and the reason and filling up all those, questions about my character, and it's like, you know, I, you know, for me, my favorite part of it is obviously the acting, and so if I can have a team, that one guy that wants to direct, one guy that wants to write, one guy that wants to produce, and all of us work together and make something happen. That's the magic right there. And it's also, like for Malcolm, it was, I was out, looking for networking, or I went to a networking event looking to broaden my, reach of filmmakers, right? And there's this great place, this guy, Mikhail Todd, who hosts them, does in Atlanta at Little Five Points at this place called Star Bar. And they're always open about showcasing short films, music videos, trailers, stuff like that, and getting filmmakers and actors together to mingle, and make projects. And when I went there and I met Chadwick, him and his girlfriend Marcy, and they were the first ones I saw when I walked in there. I was early. They were earlier. They were there first. I walk in, I saw them, and I ordered a water or something, and we were just small talking. I was just like, "Hey, how's it going?" And you showing anything tonight? And he was like, "Yeah, I'm showing my trailer to my short film." I said, "Okay." And then we were talking about, where are you from or where you stay? And he said Gainesville. And I'm like, I'm in Flowery Branch. That's like 5 minutes down the road. And I was like, oh, we could easily make something together. And so then the event happened, we went inside, everybody showed up, we were watching all these films and stuff. And that particular night, there was a lot of comedic stuff happening. Sorry, I'm getting a call. But no, there was a lot of comedic stuff happening. And me and Chadwick were like, we want to do something more intense, more serious, more dramatic. And so Chadwick hit me up a week later with a script. And, it was the first Malcolm script. And he was like, hey, read this. Tell me what you think. And I said, okay. And I read it, and it was about a serial killer with schizophrenia, and the way it read about me and this voice in my head, I was like, wow, that's a challenge, and I'm always, as an actor, in any endeavor, you should always look for a challenge and try to take the bull by the horns, like you said, right? And it's like, that's the only way I'm going to get better at my craft. And so I was like a little scared of doing it, but I was like, let's do it, and so I told him, I was like, let's do it. And so we got a crew together, and we shot it, and where we shot the first the first installment, whatever. It was at first going to be a web series, and then we were like, no, let's make it a feature film. But we had such a blast that we just kept writing. He wrote a second one, we did that, a third one, a fourth one, and then we had an idea for a fifth chapter or whatever, and I was like, hey, I've got some ideas for it. Do you mind if I write? And he's like, yeah, by all means. And so I wrote the ending, and then some of the very beginning stuff that we added in later on. But I thank Chadwick for being so open to that. Allowing me to come in as a writer, as a producer, finding people, finding the budget, finding these things to make it better, and being my partner in crime with it, that really meant a lot. And then having our guy, Johnny Ray Jr., shoot it and edit it, like he did, and making it, look great, and having it, his editing style and being because editing a movie is an art in itself. I mean, because you basically have all the paintbrushes, all these shots, all these takes, and putting them together, making it this movie. And so he did an amazing job with, where to put the camera, where to, and then the editing part of it. I mean, those two guys, and then even towards finishing the movie. I mean, Johnny Ray really stepped it up and made sure that it, would happen no matter what with locations, stuff like that, and we were like, so it was definitely a team effort with Malcolm. But yeah, man, I mean, it was a blast playing Malcolm.
And with editing, real quick, while we're there, and then we'll kind of start to go towards wrapping this. It's such an art form, and I don't think people were really aware of it until UGC came into the equation. TikTok formats, Reels, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. Because then for a content creator, it's not like just setting up a camera and shooting. Sure, you could do that. You realize then, oh, wow, like this takes on a whole other energy if I cut out all the space. It has a whole other energy if I leave the space. Wow, that doesn't work unless I literally take out that one frame or those two frames, because somebody's closing their eyes and it's distracting from what's going on. It just doesn't feel right. And music videos, same thing. It's like I never really understood. I didn't realize that I had a natural eye for stuff until I started editing my own material back, 2011, 2010, 2009. Really just very bare bone. But even bare bone, you still, from a composition aspect, from a cadence aspect, like so much of it, and you'll probably agree with me, so much of it, like everything that we do, even from a performance standpoint and acting, is the timing and the cadence. And the same thing happens, it translates from the script to the actors. It translates from the actors to everything that's going on set and the way that it's being captured, the angles, the choices, and then all of that, like you said, it was a great analogy, paintbrushes, paint, everything coming together in the editing room. And it's like, man, an edit will make or break a film or whatever the medium is. Like, I've seen stuff that I've been in where I was like, damn it, that was a great performance. Why did they edit it like that? And I get it. There's a lot of factors that go into it. Anybody who creates and produces knows there's a lot of factors that go into it. But there's just certain things that happen. Like, there's just certain things, just like, man, like that, So I say that to say, and just to kind of bounce off of you, it is an art form, and it is super, super important. And I'm glad that it's really starting to take on its own head. And even just short form TikToks, timing, cuts, angles, and it's way more prominent now than I think it was earlier on. The editing, the choices in editing, I think just the average viewer is able to pick up on those idiosyncrasies more now than probably pre-social media.
Oh yeah. I totally agree. I mean, editing a movie, I mean, you could have 3 separate editors, and it'd be a different movie each time. People think that's kind of crazy, but like Joaquin Phoenix and Joker, he did a different he like every take he made a different choice. Like, for an example, how he came out on the on De Niro's talk show. He came out a different way. And Todd Phillips said that he did it so many different ways on every single scene that they could edit together a whole 10 movies of just the Joker. It was that many different. So, but they in the editing room had to make that decision of which take to use for each scene.
Right.
And so,
right.
and yeah. I mean, the editing is crucial. People don't give it enough credit, but uh, people, the audience, they don't know what they don't know. What goes into it. They're just there to enjoy, and it's our job to make sure it's enjoyable and watchable. And so I've definitely shared my fair experiences of being on a couple things that were not watchable. But one thing that Jack Nicholson said in an interview back in the day was, I've been part of some of the most dreadful pictures, that of all time. But if you can stand, he said, if you can stand the humiliation, because you're always there on a set and everybody is trying to do the best that they can.
Yeah.
So it's like, as long as you're trying to do the best you can every time, you're going to get better and you're going to get recognized,
Yeah.
And so that's what I really liked about that interview was, I've been on some of the most dreadful pictures of all time, but as long as you're trying to do it good, so.
Well, and speaking of, as we start to wrap up, I mean, we gotta have our 5 minutes of Brando. We gotta,
Yeah.
we gotta top things off with the master himself. And I believe, I think you recommended this, or did I? I think I sent a picture of it to you when I got it, and you were like, "Oh yeah, I just finished reading it. You're gonna love it." And I'd recommend anybody out there. I believe this is the only essentially autobiography, right, that he did, and I mean, he had this guy Robert Lindsay who authored it with him, but it's very first person, and I think it's really the only. This is one of the greatest books I've ever read in my entire life, and it reads effortlessly. It's, I mean, Page Turner is so cliche, dude. You won't be able to put this thing down, as you know.
Yeah. Brando for sure. It's huge inspiration to, so many people of, actors, and another great one too. The book's great. I also love the documentary that was it was Listen to Me, Marlon. So Listen to Me, Marlon is gotta call this guy back later. But Listen to Me, Marlon is my favorite documentary of his. But yeah, Marlon Brando is, man, he just seeing him from On the Waterfront, Viva Zapata, Streetcar Named Desire, Last Tango in Paris, The Godfather. He's just Apocalypse Now. He's just phenomenal, just phenomenal.
Insane. I mean, I have no words other than, it's obviously just a pioneer, a huge inspiration and influence for sure. And the one thing that always has stuck out to me is just there's a lot of things, but if I had to pick one, it would be the fact that he was so ahead of his time. If you take him out of the content, I mean, he just exploded off of the screen in a way that was not dateable. He was timeless.
Right. Almost like Elvis Presley. A lot like Elvis. They just, you could put them into something today.
Yeah. Yeah. And their mannerisms and the way that they talk, sure, maybe it's just a twinge. If anything, I'd say a little bit more mannered and a little bit more sophisticated. We've lost a lot of our linguistics and language skills. Unfortunately, I think, for what it's worth, there's been a lot more slang and whatnot, and we're all guilty of it. But that era, you take that factor out, they still are they're timeless. They're just time. I wish there was another way for me to say it, and there really isn't. They're timeless.
Yeah, they really are, and I really respect that Brando, because there's Johnny Depp and they're really close. Brando and Johnny Depp from that movie Don Juan DeMarco.
Yeah.
He made a comment, Johnny Depp did at whichever festival it was, I can't remember, saying that like there's so many actors that like they don't stay true to themselves. Like they kind of follow the crowd, and if they don't fall in line, basically, that they, you're just gonna be like everybody else, basically. And he's like, if you want to live your life like that, go ahead. I'll be on the other side, enjoying myself or whatever. And Brando really was like that in his day. I mean, the way his bold choices with movies and his acting performances and his the civil rights and stuff like that. He really was he just didn't give a shit about what people thought. He was just like, this is my thing. Had all these women, all these kids. He just, he was a
Tahiti.
He was an animal, but that's really, to stay true to yourself is what I'm getting at. Stay true to yourself, and that's what made him just stand out so much, is that he wasn't like anybody else. That's what made him so special. His, dedication towards the craft. I mean, and making it, authentic. And he was like, this character actor that, he was, one of the first ones really to, explode with being a character actor, doing different accents, doing different roles, doing different guys, and doing them beautifully, and making it to where it wasn't acting, it was real, it was himself being, and that's a testament of his work going into doing the role,
so well said. We're gonna hit the shootout in a second, and then the final question. But real quick, future plans. Anything for that's, well, there's a couple of things that we talked about that are still being fleshed out or in production, post-production. Can't give too many cards away right now. But anything, future plans for you wise to wrap up the year, going into next year? What can we expect from Alex Javo?
Well, I would like to, on Jason Damico show, we are in process of writing a Malcolm sequel, Malcolm
Nice.
2. We have Enzo in the works. Johnny Ray Jr. and I are making a vampire movie that'll be shot hopefully this year, based on the Greek mythology story, Ambrosio, the first vampire, and we are also there's also other movies that I've been in that are coming out. Stay tuned and look out for Deadline. Look out for what's another one I can talk about? Yeah, I'm trying to get in trouble, but yeah. So those are the movies I can really talk about that are coming out. But for those watching, Malcolm is available now on Amazon Prime Video. Condor's Nest is available on Apple TV, and the Raker House is available on Troma now if you want to see a horror movie that will make you contemplate what the hell life is in itself.
So the shootout, I've got 10 words that I will say to you one by one, and you fire back whatever comes to mind for you. Master shots.
Close-up shots.
Lighting.
Dark.
Sound.
Visual.
Close up.
Master.
Comedy.
Drama.
Drama was next, so I guess comedy.
Thriller.
Yeah. Post-production.
Pre-production.
Script.
Co-writers.
Atlanta.
Hotlanta.
I think of the Braves, unfortunately, because I'm a Mets fan, but you know,
yeah,
it is what it is. You guys are having a good year. I got to give credit where credit's due, but you guys seem to always be having a good year.
It's pretty cool to see.
Pizza.
Oh, spaghetti.
Folks, you've heard it here. Straight from the ethnically ambiguous's mouth. This is
yeah.
I have really nothing else to add here. Your social media, where can folks find you besides Googling and seeing your beautiful face come up?
Thank you. Instagram is Alex Javo, one word, ALEXJAVO, and Facebook the same name, Alex Javo. And you can also search me on YouTube. I've got stuff on YouTube, Alex Javo.
Awesome. Oh, I always ask this question at the end, which is if you could go back in time to your 15-year-old self, knowing what you know now, what would you tell him as advice or just in general?
If I was 15 years old and I went back to, or if I went back to my 15-year-old self and told him about my life now, he would go, I knew it.
Very cool.
It took so.
Very cool. I love it. Check out the description box below for everything that you guys need regarding Alex. Be on the lookout for Malcolm 2, full length Enzo coming up. And I think that's going to do it for this episode. Do you have any last words, my friend?
Just to do what you love, do what you love. It'll fill you up every day. It gets hard, sometimes life circumstances, but, push through. It's what you're here. It's what you were put on earth for, whatever that thing is that makes you happy, makes you fulfilled, something that you're good at. That's what you are here for is, that is your duty here on earth. And to watch Malcolm on Amazon Prime Video today.
So well said, my friend. So well said. Yeah, you guys are watching and listening to the Jason Damico Show. This has been an absolute pleasure having my good friend Alex on the show. Definitely check his material out. Keep up with his career. He's obviously got some great things that are going to continually be in the works, and look forward to the next time that we share the screen together on another project. The Jason Damico Show you can find at YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon. If you're not on one of those platforms already, you can also go to Simplecast and be a part of it there as well. We will see you guys on the next episode, and peace.